It is so nice to be here. Back home in Canada last year at this time we had 2 feet of snow, but not this year. And Carol, there's Carol. I met Carol down in Julian, California, down in the south a few years ago, teaching at a fiddle camp there, and met lots of nice people here last year. Going to bring you a little bit of my Canadian heritage here. I was inspired. My father was a fiddle player. My father's name was Art. He played left-handed fiddle. He had 10 brothers and sisters, and they all played fiddle. They played on their dad's fiddle. He was a right-handed fiddle player. My dad was left-handed, and he had to learn how to play on a right-handed fiddle. And he played it very, very well. He said anybody could play it right-handed. And I proved him right. And so I grew up with fiddle music. In Canada, our big fiddle player back in the 50s and 60s, I grew up in the 60s, and we had a guy by the name of Don Messer that had a TV show, and it was on CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and it was all across Canada every Saturday night, and so everybody knew Don Messer, and that was the style of music that we played. And so we're going to take you back to some of my culture and play some of the old tunes. I'm sure you'll recognize them. And I've also been influenced by many of the great American fiddle players, and I'll do my best to try to play a little bit of that music as well. And I've written lots of music, and so you're going to hear some new tunes tonight. And I'm so pleased and honored to have these 2 gentlemen up on stage with me. Please put your hands together one more time for Matt and Ron. I'm going to start with 3 of my tunes here. Key of G. All right on. Thank you so much. A couple of tunes I wrote. First one's a tune I wrote for a wonderful fiddle player in Manitoba. His name was Mel Bedard. He passed away last year. I called it the Mel Bedard Reel. The second tune was a tune I wrote for my mom and dad way back in the 1980s, and their names were Art and Marg, so it was Art and Marg's Reel. And the third tune was a traditional French-Canadian tune coming from Quebec called the Point-a-Pic Reel. And right now we're going to play a country tune. And you know, I grew up with the sound of the fiddle. In our house with my dad playing the fiddle, my Uncle Louis played the button accordion, and my Uncle Floyd played the rhythm guitar. It was fiddle music, fiddle music, fiddle music. That's all I thought there was until 1966 when my dad bought a Pontiac Parisian and it had a radio in it. And I heard people singing, and I thought, oh my goodness, that will never catch on. You know, and you'd go on one station and they called that rock and roll, and then to be on another station and they called that country music, and to me it was all rock and roll because I couldn't hear the fiddle enough. And I thought to myself, on that one they called the country station, they'd be singing, and way in the background you could hear the fiddle a little bit, and I thought, why don't they just turn the fiddle up? That's what the people want to hear. But so I didn't like any of that music because we'd go back in the house and it'd be fiddle, 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 and that's what I grew up on. And we played old-time dances for every Friday and Saturday night where you'd play 3 waltzes, and then you'd play 3 polkas, and then you'd play 3 swing tunes, and then you'd play a heel and toe polka, and then you'd do a butterfly, and this would go on and on and on till about 12 o'clock at night when I'd let my brother sing You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog. And then we'd come back and play Over the Waves Waltz. And around 1 o'clock when it was time to quit, we'd let the drummer play Wipeout. And then we'd play Irene Goodnight and go home and go out and do it again the next night. But in the 1980s, I was making my living playing fiddle. But the old-time dances were really starting to slow down. And if I wanted to make my living playing, I had to join a band that was playing country music. And I thought, well, that'll be easy because the fiddle player never gets to play enough. But you got to play every night. And so it really wasn't very long at all. I really started to love the sound of country music. Back in those days, it was called country music. We were playing songs by Ray Price and Merle Haggard and Hank Williams and Charlie Pride and all. Today, they call that classic country music. And I love that stuff as well. It's got a big part of my heart. And I've recorded an album just this year, released it this year, called Vintage Vollrath, and it's full of old country classics. And we're going to play a couple of those tunes right now for you. A tune from Fair and Young called 4 in the Morning, and then a tune that Hank Snow did, a fellow Canadian, called Fool Such as I. So here we go, a little bit of 4 in the Morning. 1, 2, 3, and 2. All right on. Thank you so much. That's awful kind of me to play a Fair and Young song. He never played any of mine. In Canada, our oldest form of fiddling is called the Métis style. Métis is the French word which means mixed blood. The immigrants, when they came over to Canada and down into the United States, and when they arrived here, the First Nations people were here, and the immigrants brought fiddles with them because I'm suspecting pianos were too heavy. So thank God that they brought the fiddles with them, and so the fiddle that's the earliest instrument in Canada other than the drum. And so the fiddle player was the band. The fiddle player, when there was a dance going on in town, the fiddle player was the band. He made all the money. He didn't have to share his money with nobody. Oh, come to think of it, there was no money in those days. He got paid by potatoes and carrots, I think. But he sat on stage and he clogged his feet and the people danced all night. And I'm gonna play a tune that I've written in this style, the Métis style. Lots of the Métis tunes are what we call crooked, where you can't count to 4 in a bar. Well, you'll see what I mean. This first tune I'm going to play, I believe, is not crooked. I wrote this tune, and it reminds me of when buffalo roamed the land. Is there anybody here around when buffalo roamed the land? Yes, there's Vi Wickham at the back. Yes, thanks, Vi. You'll recognize this tune then. This sounds like a really old melody to me, and I'm going to play it all by myself. And so it's in the Métis style. You'll hear what I mean. And then I'm going to go to a tune that I'm sure you all recognize called the Arkansas Traveler. But the way the Métis people play the Arkansas Traveler, it's a little bit different. And you'll see what I mean when you can't count to 2 or can't count to 4 in a bar. It gets a little bit crooked. The first part is going to be quite normal. But if you have a seatbelt, I would fasten it, because in the second half of the tune, you might go, "What is he doing?" and fall off your chair. So I'm going to play this tune called The Reel of the Buffalo and then the Arkansas Traveler, just a cappella. on. Thank you so much. I'm going to play an old tune here right now that's typically not a fiddle tune, but it's probably my most favorite melody in the whole wide world. We're going to play Danny Boy. Oh, thank you so kindly. I'm so fortunate my wife is able to come along with me on many of the trips I do. She's a great French-Canadian style step dancer, and she's here with me this weekend. So everybody, please put your hands together for Rhea. And she's going to dance on a tune called the Steel Reel. Let's see. Oh, isn't she a good cook? Oh, I love her. We're going to slow it down right now and play a waltz that I composed for a wonderful young fiddle player. He lives in Manitoba, the province of Manitoba. His name is Ryan Dow, and he's a big boy. I've known him since he was probably 6 years old. He was a big boy then, and now he's 21 or 22 years old, and he's twice as big as I am. He's a left-handed fiddle player, and he plays so sweet. He comes from the northern Manitoba, where the First Nations people are, and that whole area is very kind of depressed and a troubled area. There's lots of alcohol and abuse, and he's come out of this, and he's a great young man, and I feel he's an inspiration to all the other young ones up there. He's a hero to many, and I wanted to write him a tune, and I asked Ryan, I said, if I was to write you a tune, what would it be? I kind of thought it would be a real square dance, hoedown kind of a thing. And he said, no, he said, I love the waltzes that have double stops. He said, I love playing double stops. And I know he does, because I mean, I hear him play. It's always so sweet. So I've written him a waltz all in double stops, and this is called Ryan. Double stops means two notes at the same time. We're going to get Matt to play a little intro. Oh, right on. Thank you so much. I taught at the very first fiddle camp in Canada. It was in 1988. It was at a place in northern Saskatchewan called Emma Lake. It was a fellow by the name of Sandy Cameron that decided it might be kind of nice to have a place where fiddlers could get together and share ideas, because before that it was always fiddle contests, and fiddlers would always come to these fiddle contests, and the hall would be full because people love the fiddle. But it was always competitive, and everybody was always doing their best to beat everybody and trying to be the best. And he thought, let's get fiddlers together to share ideas. He called me up to come and teach at this camp. I said, Sandy, I'm really not a teacher. I don't know, I just play by ear. I don't know nothing about reading music. He says, but I've seen you play, and I think you've got something to share with them. And so away I went to this fiddle camp. He approached a group in Saskatchewan called the Saskatchewan Cultural Exchange Society, and he made this public to them about having this fiddle camp, and he needed a sponsor, somebody to head it up and organize it. He would organize it, but he needed the money. And this group said that they would sponsor it if he could come up with 12 fiddlers the first year. And the night before the fiddle camp was to start, he had 11 people signed up, and he didn't want to He didn't want this not to happen. So he called his daughter out on the back deck and said, tomorrow you're going to start learning how to play fiddle. And she agreed to that. And the Emma Lake Fiddle Camp was born. And we had 12 people the first year. The second year there was 24. And then it doubled every year. Pretty soon it had to run 2 weeks. And pretty soon it had to run 3 weeks. And pretty soon it ran for 4 weeks. We were up in this place in northern Saskatchewan for 4 weeks out of the year. It was an absolute wonder. It went for 20 years, and it spawned many, many fiddle camps all across Canada now. And the youngsters are playing the fiddle like crazy, so we're not in any jeopardy of losing the fiddle. But about 4 or 5 years after it got started, Gordon Fish, the fellow that was running the camp, he started hiring some other people, and he found a fiddle player from the East Coast by the name of Gordon Stobie. And Gordon came out and he seen myself and John Arcand writing fiddle tunes. And he didn't know that we were allowed to do that. He thought we could just play tunes that other people wrote, and we weren't. And he kind of took that upon himself. It's like, oh, that'd be great, because he's like just a long-haired hippie old guy, you know? And he played in all kinds of different bands, and rock and roll and blues and Cajun and all that. So he had all kinds of influence in his head. And he started writing fiddle tunes. And some of them were like the old Don Messer tunes, and some of them were kind of Cajun tunes coming out of Louisiana, and some of them had African rhythms, and some of them were very, very strange. And but people were kind of liking what he was doing. So one day I said to Gordon, I would like to write a tune with you, Gordon, and if it could be one of them twisty ones, one of them crazy ones that you got. You write the first part and then kind of bring it to me, and I'll see if I can write the second part. And he said, okay. And this was at Emma Lake. He went over to his cabin, and about an hour later he came over with this tune and he played it for me, and it was in D minor. And it was, I got so depressed when I heard it. But I thought, oh, well, I asked for it. So it was different. It was kind of weird and strange, and I didn't know what it was. But I said, okay, leave it with me, and I'll see if I can come up with something on the second half. And so I kept trying to come up with something in D minor on the second half, and I was falling deeper and deeper into despair. And I went, no, people aren't going to enjoy this. So I thought maybe if I bring the second part and put it in D major, it would brighten it up a little bit. And it kind of put a smile on my face, and I thought, yeah, this is kind of happy. So the second part goes into D major, and an hour later, I walked over to Gordon's cabin and played it for him, and he liked it, and he thought it kind of matched up good. And we knew it wasn't a waltz, and we knew it wasn't a jig. We knew it wasn't a reel. It wasn't a swing tune. We didn't know what it was. And as we played it back and forth to each other, somebody went walking by the cabin and opened up the door and come flying in and said, my goodness, that's a mazurka. We never even heard of a mazurka. So you can just imagine how excited we were that we had written a mazurka. So that night I was doing my show, and I thought we would play this new tune, and told everybody how we had written this tune, this mazurka. I knew darn well nobody knew what a mazurka was. So, and Emma Lake was a place, it was an artist camp, artist drawing. They would come, they'd paint pictures. They'd travel from all over the world to come up to Emma Lake. And lo and behold, there was somebody in the crowd that night from Europe that knew what a mazurka was. And after we played it, they were some upset that we claimed this tune to be a mazurka. They said it was nothing like a mazurka, and it felt to them it was more like a buzzurka. And so we apologized, and we called this tune Buzzurka. I got a little intro. Dum-dum. Not quite done. Oh, right on, thank you. We're going to play you a medley of fiddle tunes that I grew up on back home here, starting in the key of A, just because I'm from Canada, eh? Thank you. Oh, maybe you knew some of the tunes in there, some standards. We ran this afternoon, and I said I'm going to start with the tune in A, and as soon as I kicked it off, Matt says, "That's Big John McNeil. I didn't know that you guys played that. You play that down here?"
What do you mean, you guys?
You guys. You're my heroes. That's what I mean by that. So we're gonna play a little bit of swing music. I love the swing style of music. When I joined the country bands up in Canada back in 1980, I think 1982, I joined my first country band and learned all about steel guitar. I don't play steel guitar, but I remember being a young boy learning how to play the fiddle. I was probably 10 years old, and I went to a wedding, and there was they had a band. They had bands at weddings back in those days, not just DJs. And there was a band there, and there was a fiddle player, and they had a steel guitar player. And my God, that steel guitar sounded awful. 10 years old, I went, oh, what an awful instrument that was. I thought that it just sounded so whiny. It just made like fingers on a blackboard. And so I never liked the steel guitar until I joined this country band that had somebody that really knew how to play the steel guitar. And I went, oh my God, what a beautiful sounding instrument that is. And the fiddle and steel guitar really just go hand in country music. And a few years ago, I went and did a twin fiddle album with Buddy Spiker in Nashville. And we had Buddy Emmons playing steel guitar on that. And let me tell you, I have many, many heroes in my life. Many fiddle players, many guitar players, but I'm sure my all-time musical hero is Buddy Emmons. What he does on the steel guitar is just amazing. And I always try when I'm doing my improvs and stuff like that, I'm trying to make my fiddle sound like Buddy Emmons, what he might come up with on the steel. And I know I come up short, but I really have fun doing it. I'll just share a little story with you. I was judging a fiddle contest in Jackson, Wyoming back in 1995, and then they had me entertain, and I was doing the show afterwards. And after I was all finished, a gentleman came up to me and said, "Hey, you play double stops, and you got augmented chords, and you got diminished chords, and you got nines and sixes, and you play double stops." And I thought, it's kind of funny how somebody recognized these chord patterns I was playing. And he said, "Why do you do that?" And I said, he said, "I haven't heard that in many, many years. I hadn't heard a fiddle player do that." And I said, "Well, I'm really trying to do what I hear the steel guitar players do." And this gentleman introduced himself. His name was Bud Isaacs. He was the fella that invented the pedal steel guitar. And he played steel guitar on Webb Pierce's song Slowly, way back in the 1950s. And he told me I put pedals on a steel guitar to try to emulate the sound of three fiddles. And I thought, it's kind of come full circle. I was trying to do what you guys were doing so no wonder I can't do what you guys are doing, because you got three notes happening most of the time. But anyways, fiddle and steel guitar, I just absolutely love it. And it has nothing to do with the tune I'm going to play right now. I just get to talking a lot, but it's swing music. I love swing music on the steel guitar, and we're going to play a couple of tunes. One is called Stay Out of the South, and the second one is called Charmaine. You want to give me a little intro in G about that tempo? That's a very Hey, I think I'm just going to pack up these 2 guitar players and take them with me back home. Big hand for the boys here. Lots of the dancing that my wife does originates in Ireland. And we're going to get her out here to dance a set of Irish jigs. Everybody, please put your hands together for Rhea one more time. Don't sit there. Don't step on me. 1, 2, I got it. Right on, Rhea. Nice dancing. We've got a couple of more tunes to do before we take a short little break. But as country music is dear to my heart, I have a very good friend in Ontario by the name of Jimmy Fair. He spells his last name P-H-A-I-R. He had a TV show nationally syndicated in Canada called Sun Parlor Country. And he sings the old songs so well. Whenever I see him, he sings Faded Love and Crazy Arms and all the old wonderful shuffles, and really brings a tear to my eye. He sings them so well. And I knew that I wanted to write him a tune in that style. So this is a tune I call The Country Fair, and it's on my new album released this year called The Journey. And it's in the country style. A F, 2, a 1, 2. I'm going to get a good buddy to come up and join us on our. We got to play a little hoedown out of here. Tex, will you grab your bass and come and join us? Big hand, everybody, for Tex. We're going to play a couple of tunes that I composed for fiddle players in Ontario. The first one, Don Gilmet, Hoedown, and the second one is called the Laverne Hummel Special. Key a D there, Tex.